Thanks for coming down. Appreciate it. We're going to do some jamming today along with some CDs that I brought from my new record that I've just finished with Lynch. It's not new stuff, unfortunately. It's just a remake of old Lynch songs and some Duncan songs, but it sounds really good. We rewrote everything and new solos and everything. It's Robert Mason, Anthony Esposito, and myself, the new drummer. And it was a lot of fun to do, and I brought some backing tracks, and we're playing to that right now, answering some questions, and then playing with the band later on. And signing autographs if you guys want to meet me over here at the table. And I've got my beautiful little daughter here, Mariah, helping me out. Wave hi, Mariah. Can you believe she's only 12? Look at her. Isn't she cute? Yeah. She's a big 12-year-old. Anyway, she's out here helping me this week. She got out of school and everything, so I put her to work. So, make her work really hard. All right, so, anyways, Rob, you can go ahead and cue me up. the sound out there, okay?
Excellent.
Yeah, cool. All right. It's kind of echoey here. I wonder why. Okay, cool. All right, I'm going to answer some questions. You guys got any? And I want to just, whatever questions you guys got about what's going on.
How do you find yourself in a setting like this instead of playing live clubs?
This is, since it's so intimate, this is, and you're under the microscope and everybody's just sitting there watching you, not the rest of the band. It's pretty intimidating. I mean, you try it.
I don't have your talent.
Yeah, well, neither do I sometimes.
Is it easier for you to promote yourself and your records this way?
Well, I'm here to promote ESP guitars primarily, and been playing. Been doing ESP for since '86, I believe. So how long that is. Not good at math. What is that? 15 years. And just have a really long history with them. My roadie for the longest time, Matt Masiandaro, was we became best friends. Went on the road together for like 7 years in Duncan, and then I picked up my ESP guitars and sort of worked it out where he got a job there, and he ended up being he's president of the company, and he's Mariah's godfather, and we're just really close, and I'm part of the team, so I'm like lifetime member of ESP, so this is my part. This is my job. So I come out and promote my guitars and play for people and things like that. I got a couple new guitars coming out. I have a new LTD coming out, which is this guitar here, which I'll play a little bit later. It's my Haji guitar. It's a Wicked Sensation guitar. And I got that, we have an LTD version coming out of that. And I got a version of this coming out, which is a relic. They're making 100 of these, which are exact replicas of this. And they're just making 100, and that's it. And they're breaking the mold, and they're gonna be real expensive. So those are like collector's items. And then I have another LTD coming out, which is a flame baritone guitar, which is what I use on all the rhythms on all these tracks that you're listening to right now. These are backing tracks for the record I got coming out. So I got 3 new guitars coming out next year. So more stuff for you to buy. Who can afford that these days, right? They're super inexpensive. That's the good news. Yeah, all under $100. Right? So So I'm out here to promote ESP guitars, D. Markley strings, Seymour Duncan pickups. I use Screamin' Demon pickups, which is a pickup that I designed in the early 90s and continue to use. And it's a great pickup. It's not a real high output pickup, as the name would imply. It just has a lot of tone to it, I feel, and doesn't overdrive the amp to the point where you're getting all that front end distortion. It allows the guitar to sound more like a guitar and have more tonality to it. That's why I enjoy using it. So. I use Gensben's cabinets, which I don't have with me today, unfortunately, because they're not widely distributed. But and that's what I'm doing. So yeah, just out here and playing along with the band later on. This evening we're going to play some songs. And if you guys want to scoot your chairs up for something later on, we can get into a jam thing. I don't know if anybody out there wants to sing. You're welcome to come up and fill in on what song do we need somebody to sing? Kiss of Death. Anybody knows that or can fake it? Then welcome to come on up. We did it yesterday and it worked out fine. Some guy just jumped on stage. So, it's hot in here, isn't it? It's like 40 degrees all day long down here. It's okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
When is the Lynch Pilsen project coming out?
Lynch Pilsen project. Man, it's taken a long time, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we finished writing. It's a record that I did with Jeff Pilsen from Duncan, and now we're also playing with Jason Bonham. So it's a trio thing, and it's been done. It's just the business end of it. But we just signed with Spitfire Records, so it's going to be coming out in hopefully March. Which seems like a long way away. I mean, we started working on that record last November, so it's coming up on a year. Well, it has been a year actually now. It's been a long process, so but it's great. I mean, Jeff and I did it at A&M Studios, and it just came out great. And I also just finished up another record with original Lynch mob, Anthony Esposito, Robert Mason, singer from the second record, and Mike Frowen, which is a drummer, friend of mine, amazing drummer, really good guy. Hasn't been in any famous bands or anything, he's just a great player and just a really cool guy. And so that's the new Lynch mob, and we put that together, and we're actually going to be rehearsing everything going on tour next year. And that record will be coming out on Cleopatra Records, February to March as well. So I got a whole bunch of records coming out next year, but for right now, clinics. So working on a lot of things going on. So got a solo record I'm working on, and some other things. So I hate to just talk too many things up before they happen. So we'll just wait and see. Things take so long in the music business. It's just, I can write records and record albums way quicker than you can release them, so I just keep recording, and that's all I've been doing all year is just recording. And I have a studio at A&M Studios where I just work, and just, it's when it comes to the business end of it, things kind of get bogged down sometimes, but I've got a lot of things in the pipeline, so hopefully those will be coming out soon. Anybody else? Yeah.
When you started using Capture?
Just this tour.
Just this tour?
It was in the person that's driving us around, Dave. Actually, the sales rep from ESP that we drove around with last week. What was his name? Dave Batson. Had it in his truck, and we just plugged it in, and it sounded great. And I just been using that ever since.
You using the?
I don't really endorse it or anything. Just.
Are you using the new Ubershaw and the new CD? Or?
My rig is a Ubershaw. I have 2 Ubershaws and it's a Bogner amp and a couple of diesel VH4s.
No more Soldanos?
No, I haven't played Soldanos in forever. Yeah. So that's where I'm at with that. But my gear changes so quick, and it's find a new amp and I'm all over it. So.
Yeah. No more boogies?
No, I sold all my boogies. Yeah, I don't know. They worked for me for a lot of years, and they're great, but I think they were kind of limiting in a way for me personally. They just, as far as my lead playing, I didn't think that they really had the expression that I needed, like an old Marshall does, And I think I just beat them up so much on the road and using them for years and years that they just kind of kicked the life out of them.
Yeah.
So. They're still great sounding heads, but I just felt like moving on. So I always like blaming my gear for my lack of, ability. It's my gear's fault. Yeah. So, anyways, what else? Well, you guys are shyer than I am. Yeah.
As far as being an aspiring guitarist, how do you keep challenging yourself, or how you used to keep challenging yourself?
Well, trying to stay contemporary and not repeat myself, which is really amazingly difficult to do, and especially the older you get and the more you play, you're sort of ingrained, your fingers have this muscle memory and you just revert back to the same old licks. It's really hard to try to do something that's uncomfortable for you and break new ground. And I do that, or try to do that anyways. I don't know if I do it successfully, by just input, just listening to new stuff. So any bands that really get me excited, whether it's not necessarily guitar music, as far as, shred guitar and like that, but new bands come out that I go, wow, I want to write songs like this and make sounds like this. And I just listen to that and try to copy it. That's all I've ever done is just try to copy other people.
Like who?
Hendrix to begin with,
Who now?
The Beatles, when I started out, I just listened to Beatles records, it's what was happening when I was first picked up guitar when I was 10. It was 38 years ago, and then Hendrix came as my first guitar hero. And then I listened to everybody in the 60s and 70s, all, the biggies, Beck, Clapton, Page, and, on through Eddie and Yngwie, and, I listened to everybody and just tried to copy them, basically. But I kind of developed a style by incorporating all those elements into what I do, and kind of trying to follow the inner vision that's kind of going on, it's always been there, chasing that ultimate kind of guitar solo that's in your head, and never quite achieving it, so you keep chasing that, and that's kind of what keeps me going. And as far as new bands, what I'm listening to, the band that I'm most excited about right now is Queens of the Stone Age. Just, I don't know if you
They're awesome.
Yeah, it's just the record is just amazing. It's really got me excited about rock and roll again. You know? And I like a lot of the new bands. You know, the bands are tuned down to zero. The baby bands are cool. You know, but a lot of sameness going on. So I'm really looking for stuff that's not, you know, audio slave like that. But you know, there's good guitar players. You know, I mean, Tom Morello's a great guitar player. He's doing the challenging stuff, I think. You know, to kind of carve a niche for himself. So. But I think people are definitely getting back into playing. I mean, where I'm at the studio where I work, there's a lot of bands come through there, and I sort of rub shoulders with a lot of young players and producers and everything. And I'm telling you, they're all closet guitar geeks, everybody. From the oldest guys down to the youngest guys. They really are anxious to play again. So I think guitar will be, soloing and things like that will be emerging again in music, I think, in rock music. So it's going to take some new hotshot guy to probably, you know, make his mark and bring it all back. Or a combination of a lot of younger guys just, you know, kind of bending things in that direction. I noticed a couple guys with Meshuggah t-shirts on here. That guy's unbelievable. I mean, he's sort of the modern day Holdsworth. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Meshuggah, Swedish metal band, you know. Yeah.
George, it might be easier if we just pass around wireless mics. So if you want to answer or ask a question, raise your hand. That way everybody in the back can.
So they know what I'm answering.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I've done this before. I should know better. I'm sorry.
So,
no wonder they're looking at me with this blank look on their face. What was I talking about? I'm sorry.
So if you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll just pass around the mic.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody want the mic? Or not? Was that you stretching or? Are you sure? No, you wanted to ask a question.
No,
Come on.
really, I'm okay.
Don't make me stand up here with my hands in my pockets, sweating. Give me a break. Yeah. There you go.
How did you start out in Duncan? How old were you?
When we got signed, I was 28, I believe.
So how did you guys go about progressing to a bigger rock band? How did you do this? How did you go about it? Was your first just get together and write the songs in the basement and then play local shows and move out?
I got the question. He wanted to know how Duncan, you know, what happened after we initially got together and how we evolved from just being, you know, together to, you know, moving up the ranks. I think it was mainly due to the fact that we toured incessantly. I mean, for 7 years, and we toured on. We got every major tour that we could possibly get on, and we just banged it out year after year. And because we never really had like a big hit or anything like that, but we just did it by just, you know, working. But we got the touring by having incredibly powerful management, and that was just real luck. So I would say we weren't an especially phenomenal band or anything, and weren't really deserving of what happened to us. You know, the fact that we had some success. I really owe it all to the management company, which is a Q Prime Management, which managed Def Leppard, Metallica, Madonna, Rolling Stones, I mean, Queensryche, just Smashing Pumpkins. They had a huge roster, great bands. They just couldn't miss. So, and our manager kind of had a thing out for us. He wanted us. He was going to shove us down people's throats, whether people liked us or not. So he kept us on the road. Banged us at radio. And it was him, basically. So
That's your advice,
find a great manager. Yeah, yeah, that's easier said than done. Yeah, or somebody that believes in you. You know, somebody that maybe doesn't have all the clout but cares about you personally and willing to really work extra hard to make it happen for you. But you got to find somebody with some sort of in and connections and business savvy and knows the business. And that's a really small group of people. They all know each other. You know, word gets around quick. There's a hot band. Everybody knows about it. You know, and if you're not, they know about it too, quick. And you're either like in the running or not. But it's so competitive now compared to when I was out there. Well, I'm still out there, but when I was younger, we were trying to make our initial stab. It was 1/10 the competition it is now. And so, I don't want to discourage you, sorry. But it's just kind of the reality of the music business is at right now.
Yeah, I was just wondering what eventually led to the demise of Duncan, or breakup, or whatever you want to call it.
Well, I think all relationships tend to just fall apart eventually, personal or business or otherwise. It's just human nature. So there was a lot of, you could sit here and analyze it, cut it a lot of different ways. And from my perspective, I think it was probably greed would be the one word I would use to describe the actual cause that created the effect.
So there was more personal differences than musical?
Well, I think people are probably willing to put up with personal differences if there's enough money involved. But once greed takes over, it kind of,
Do you feel like it cramped your playing style or
well,
ability or whatever?
I could have wrote any songs I wanted to write in Duncan, and the result of our writing chemistry was what is on record. So it was somewhat limiting in the fact that I couldn't write a funk song and have Don sing it. But we were limited to the chemistry and abilities of the band, and so we live with that. That's fine. It wasn't an ideal situation, but it was, we were lucky enough to be where we were, so we were the best we could.
Now that Bon Jovi's back on the top, do you think there's any chance that maybe Duncan might give it another shot or anything like that?
We never say never, but at this moment in time, I find that hard to envision happening. Jeff just left, the band a couple of years ago, and he's got a pretty bad taste in his mouth about the whole situation. And it's not like we're young kids anymore, and we're just playing together because we want to, and there's not a lot at stake. When there's more at stake, it gets complicated, and it's hard to break up, and it's also really hard to get back together when those kinds of things are happening. So I would say it'd have to be very lucrative for all of us to be able to pick up and let go of our respective solo endeavors and do that. But I would never say no, forever, but I don't see it happening right away. I mean, they're still out there, and I don't know if Mick is still doing it with them or not, but kind of in and out, I think.
So on the site.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, we kind of did our thing, and I would love to be able to do something else that mattered beyond that, and be known for something other than that, but we'll see if that happens. But, if nothing happens between now and the time I hit 70, I'll think about it. Get out there with my walker and my Geritol and my catheter tube. That's disgusting. Yeah.
Do you like this type of going around to the clinics more than what it was to be in the scene and the band?
Do I enjoy? The question was, do I enjoy this more than going out on tour?
I don't know if enjoy, but just
well, playing is playing.
right.
And I'll tell you, I've had my share of bad gigs.
I have to say, I think this is really cool. I mean,
thank you.
This is really neat. This is like
Well, that's better for you guys. Probably not as good for me. I enjoy it. If I'm playing, I'm in the moment. I'm having a good time. I mean, playing is playing, like I said,
Yeah.
and that's really what it's all about. As far as the other 90% of the time around that, it's a chore. Whether it's this, or whether I'm on a tour bus, and that's the part that's the work, really.
Yeah.
When you get on stage, once you hit the stage and you're playing, I mean, that's wonderful. And you have good and bad shows. You have good and bad clinics. Yeah. So it's kind of all the same thing, really.
I just wondered if you missed it a lot or if you're really enjoying.
Well, I haven't done large scale touring in quite a while, like arena type touring. And so my touring has been mostly clubs, theaters, that kind of stuff.
Because a lot of the 80s bands are out.
We're all doing the same thing. We're playing the same thing. The Pig Pen in Iowa.
That's not true.
Butt
I
cracks
saw
and
Cinderella
overalls.
a couple months ago.
Yeah, they're playing a little bit bigger places. Yeah, Cinderella's they're one great band. Yeah. I would prefer not to play bars. But, a good gig is a good gig. If you got a packed house and people are into it, who cares? Intimate shows are honestly much cooler than playing arena shows because you're so detached. I mean, if I have to look at a bright side of playing a small place versus a big place, I don't want to play those places with 65,000 people. I'd rather play the bars. But if there's people hanging off the rafters and it's packed, and it's smoky, and it's late, and you have a great show, and usually it sounds better in small places too.
Yeah.
So big places, it's hard to get a good sound when you're not a headliner because it's just way out there. You know, it's not, you're not consumed by the sound, which I like it to be loud and right on top of it. So, but there's good and bad about both.
Well, I was really excited about this. This is really, really cool.
Thank you. Good question back there.
Speaking of your sound, one of the things I like about the Duncan records, especially some of the later stuff, was the tone, your guitar tone. How much of that was achieved in post-production, or was it just stick the mic and go? Did you just happen to have some?
On the Breaking the Chains record?
Well, I'm thinking more like Back to the Attack.
Yeah.
Well, I have to credit Michael Wagner with a lot of the guitar tones that I had for a couple of Duncan records. I don't know if he worked on that particular record, but you know, I'm pretty much fanatical about tone in the studio, or was more then anyways. I mean, I still am, but I had the resources back then to sit there and spend a week on a guitar tone and have the world's best producers in the world's best studios. That's a big thing, you know, when you're doing a record in a smaller studio, people on the other end, when they're listening to the record, don't understand what it takes to get to, most people don't know what it takes to get to that point, but the studio is your number one tool. And, you know, you go into 2-inch tape with a $700,000 board with all the bells and whistles in a, you know, world-class studio, it really makes a huge difference.
What mic do you prefer?
57. If you only have one mic in the world, use a Shure 57, yeah. I mean, you know, usually we go through the same routine in the studio. We get, you know, $300,000 worth of mics out there. We try every combination. We end up back with the $100 57 right in the middle of the speaker. At the end of the day, that's how everybody is. If you can't get it with a 57, you need a new amp or a new guitar player. But yeah, I mean, I like old Marshall cabs. Back in the day, I mean, old Marshalls were pretty much what I used on everything. I've had all kinds of different weird combinations, but if you say there's one common denominator, I'd say that would be it. It would be, you know, EL34, Variac, 25-watt speakers, you know, old 13-ply Finland birch cabinet, right on the floor, half stack, that's all you need. And a lot of other little tricks too, but, you know, every record was a little different, you know. I had, actually one record I did was the Underlock and Key record, had the Marshalls and the Laney heads, and then a third channel, I went into my Fostex X15 4-track, little plastic $200 4-track, with an Echoplex and a Rockman X100. And a Roland GE7 graphic EQ, and that went into the, you know, $100,000 SSL or whatever the heck whatever we were using to Neve. It was funny, but I mean, that little cheesy setup actually created that guitar sound. Yeah, I mean, without that, it sounded good, but it didn't have the fullness and the low end and everything and the sustain. And I plugged that little X15 because I really loved the demos that I did. And I was telling the producer, and I really, you know, it sounds good, but I'm losing something. I'm missing something that I had on my demos. He's like, you're kidding me. Your little cassette 4-track demos, and yeah, well, just humor me. So we plugged that rig in too, and plugged that in for it, and added that sound in, and it just, it's under lock and key. That's what made that tone happen. So, you know, there's no rules. Just make it up as you go along. So, anything else? Anybody else got a question? Yeah.
Since you endorse USB guitars, do you get free guitars?
I get all the guitars I can eat. Yeah, all day long. But I try not to take advantage of that, and I don't really like collect guitars or stockpile them. Because I figured, how many guitars can a person use? You know, and I really like the idea of having one guitar that you just love and you play all the time. And, you know, I mean, I have quite a few, but I don't really use most of them. I use this one, my Haji, and that's about it, really, primarily. So, yeah, but I get all the guitars I want. And isn't that kind of messed up? Guys that can afford to buy them, get them free, and all you know, people that really just have one cool guitar, gotta pay for them. That's not right, is it? It's revolt. Yeah.
What's your favorite piece of work that you've done?
Oh boy, That's I can't answer that. Favorite piece of work would be, I'll listen to a solo and I forgot that I did, 10 years ago. Wow, that's me. I was like, that's pretty cool. Like on this record that they're playing right now, I don't know if you hear that, but it's just something I wrote for Guitar for Practicing Musician compilation thing. It was like this 10-minute long song that just like off the top of my head. I went down to the studio in Arizona and we just did an all-night session. And just made it up as we went along and just came out with this tune. I'm like, that was really cool, And it's kind of those little surprises that are cool when you listen back and you find something that you did a long, long time ago that you forgot about. But I don't think there's any one thing that I did that was like, wow, that's my defining moment. I'm still hoping that that's ahead of me. I'd say Mr. Scary's probably right at the top. But, yeah.
When writing today, do you find yourself trying to sound like today's popular music, or do you just go back to what you know and back to your roots and write what you feel?
I've always tried to just basically walk that fine line between trying to remain somewhat contemporary and being true to what my nature is, which is what I grew up on, which is blues music, basically. Pretty much a blues player, trying to adapt, to a more modern style. So, for instance, everybody started dropping down tuning. So, I went there too, and I still do. I play, drop B stuff, and I love it. I love the way rhythm guitar sounds drop down. It's just so much meaner and tougher than anything you can do with an A440 guitar. But then after playing like that for a while, writing songs, you realize, well, you're giving up something too. You're giving up tone and character, individual, your own individual voice, because everything dropped down to B sounds the same. You sound like every other band. So I'm back to like tuning back up again a bit, and trying. That's why I was using that example, like Audio Slave or Queens of the Stone Age. They tune down a bit, but their guitars still sound like guitars, and I think that's cool. So yeah, I'm following what's happening. I'm not really a trend center, obviously, but I'm out there listening to what people are doing, and if I hear something I like, I follow.
Do you experiment with odd tunings, or do you basically stick to the standard tune?
A little bit. In fact, what I'll do sometimes is I'll just whack it out and just like, I won't know what tuning it is, but I'll find something that just sounds kind of interesting to my ear. Problem when I do that is I never write it down, so I go back to like recreate it and I'm like, what the heck is that? Because I'll even like play solos of that. And you just come up with accidental, happy accidents that are cool, very hard to reproduce. But yeah, I'm into like kind of just fishing my way through experimentally and tunings, sounds, scales, chords that are very unorthodox, and I don't really like labeling them because one of the things I love about playing is there's a mystery element to it. Because I am unschooled, every time I pick up a guitar, it's sort of an adventure. Sometimes it's not a good adventure, but sometimes it's a train wreck. But sometimes it's really magical, and the fact that I'm kind of getting into areas that I don't really understand makes it, because I'm not a master of what I do. I'm just constantly on edge, and if I nail it, it's really cool. But it's like Hendrix. Hendrix, I think, was the same way. I mean, he could fall off the horse, but when he was on, it's just you're going for a ride, So that's what I aspire to. Yeah.
Yeah. I read somewhere that you had taught guitar at one time. Is that true?
I used to teach guitar, at Musonia, which is Randy Rhodes' lawn school in the San Fernando Valley, for a short period of time. Basically, I was up for the Ozzy gig at one point, and so was he, and it was between the two of us. And I guess I drew the short straw, so to speak. So they had some good news and bad news for me. Yeah. Bad news, I didn't get the Ozzy gig. The good news is I got Randy's job at his mom's school, and he went out and became a big rock star. So I got $5 an hour for teaching students. Which is funny because he had all girl students because good-looking guy, and showed up with his little bow tie and everything. And these girls are just, they don't really want to learn guitar. They're just there to like, when I showed up, attendance kind of dropped off a bit. Huh? geez, no, it wasn't a year. It was probably 4 months or something like that. But I actually, I don't know if I actually got fired, but I got in some trouble because, well, I wasn't really making enough money, so I was building guitars and selling them to my students, and that's how I made money. I mean, you know.
Were you in Duncan then?
Was I in Duncan then? No, this is way before that. And but Mrs. Rose just happened to kind of bust open the door when I was doing kind of a guitar money exchange thing with a bunch of students, like a bunch of cash was changing. She's like, we kind of got caught red-handed, so I was out of there. I was a bad boy. So, but yeah, it was a fun time. Actually, Randy had his little Gibson amp there and his little MXR Distortion Plus, and that's what I plugged into, and it sounded incredible. So I love just teaching just because I had such a great tone, and I really wasn't teaching. I was more just showing off for these kids and then, kicking them out after 30 minutes. Like, I didn't learn anything. Well, that's your problem. It's like, $15. Huh? Yeah, we met. We do shows together occasionally, our bands. I had a band called The Boys and Exciter. It's kind of pre-Docking. And, we play in the same clubs and sit down once in a while. He's a great player, amazing player. And I actually showed him this thing, which he put on a record. That kind of thing. I showed him that whole little pattern. That was, during the eruption phase, and I had to have my eruption. Everybody had their own eruption, right? And but he took that and he was like, "Oh, show me that, show me that, show me that, show me that." I kept showing it to him, and then I don't tell him what.
Flying high again.
You got it. And it's kind of ironic because then when I auditioned for Ozzy, I had to relearn that. So I had to learn my own solo that I forgot. Didn't play very good. Yeah. Well, that's an interesting trivia. Cool. All right. Any other questions? Yeah.
I was wondering, do you enjoy playing with other musicians like you did in the Ozzy tribute album and tribute album?
Well, those records, those tribute records, I never played with a band. They send me the music and I do it, just record it on my own. So it isn't like I'm playing with these guys or anything. Yeah.
Do you enjoy playing with other musicians like that?
I enjoy jamming with guys, yeah, definitely. That's always fun. I mean, I'm playing with my high school band on weekends. The band that I was, original band I was in when I was growing up, it's my first band. We're back together and we just, we crowd in this little room, not even as big as this, and we just jam and we record it, and hopefully we'll do a CD someday and everything. It's just a lot of fun. So that's actually the funnest thing to do, is just get up and jam with other people. And write songs. Just the writing process for me was a lot of fun. But yeah, it's you come out here doing these clinics, I always get an opportunity to play with other people. I always ask the story, if you got a drum teacher, and bass teacher, guitar teacher, vocalist, whoever, let's just get up there. It makes it more interesting for all of us,
Kind of keeps you fresh then?
Yeah, it keeps you on your toes, keeps you from getting stale. It's like less safe, so. And what we'll do probably, if we feel inclined, we'll probably just do that later on when we're jamming up here. We're going to play a couple songs that we know, and then we'll probably just go off on something we don't know and see what happens. So. And that's always fun to do, So, yeah, jamming is what it's all about. When I grew up, that's what bands did. They jammed. And I think that's maybe coming back on a real small level, jam bands, I think that's so cool. I grew up with Cream and all that stuff, and Hendrix. They're just making stuff up the top of their heads. That's cool for the audience because they're watching a creative process versus the recreated process, they're watching it happen right there. It's like old jazz players, just sax players or something, just watching them go off and get inside the music and pull something out, That's really cool. Anybody else? Way in the back?
You said earlier about the level of competition has gone way up since
Yeah, the level of competition has gone up. As far as there's a glut of music out there, competing for radio, competing for rack space on the record stores, and then we've got Kaza or whatever these, download things are now on the internet. That's probably hurting sales. So you've got a shrinking market and 10 times more bands competing for that same space. And it's really expensive now to do records, even though people have Pro Tools and things like that. Really, I mean, you want to do a record right, you're going to pay huge dollars, and to get on radio costs an incredible amount of money. Like you pay radio people to go out and do radio promotion for you. It's tens and tens of thousands of dollars, no guarantees, and it's just all payola. And you're paying producers, you're paying studios, you're paying management, you're paying attorneys. It's a real long shot. Yeah, it's hard. It's a tough game. It's really like being a salesman, I think, more than anything. It's very little to do with your musical ability, That's why it's kind of sad, because it's not sad, but I mean, it's part of anything in life, I think, there's a business aspect to it that kind of clouds the musical part of it, because, you think, God, how can you be inspired to play when there's all this other, this stuff flying around in the air? But it's a lot of business, It's mostly business and very little to do with music. Like I said, I'm sitting on 3 records. I've done almost 4 records this year in the can. Getting them out there, that's a whole other challenge. Much more difficult. I feel very comfortable and warm and safe in my studio when I'm working and writing and playing. I know I can handle that, But when it gets out there, and as far as getting it from, I've got it in the can, there's my record, getting it to radio, getting it to you, that's a challenge. It's really very difficult. And especially for an older artist, it's much more challenging, because radio's going to look at it and go, well, this guy's been around the block, so. And we're just watching, Ryan and I watching that Tommy Lee special that they have. He was at VH1. And he's dealing with the same stuff. He's doing okay, but he's running into the same kind of resistance that, people from our generation and era are running into. I'm a little older than him, but still, it's the same problem we're having. And I think there's a lot of older artists that are really relevant, Guys like him, guys like even Cinderella, for instance. I think they're great players, great sound. They stand the test of time. So I think people hopefully will be weeding out kind of.
Do you think it's a repeat process? Was this hard when you were first getting noticed? Is this going to come around back again to where?
I don't know what's going to happen. I think eventually it's kind of scary. I think maybe what's going to happen is everybody's going to be create their own music. It's becoming so homogenous now, where you can actually remix people's records on your computer, and you almost don't need to be a musician anymore to create music. There's DJ guys, and they're just taking samples, and who needs to be a guitar player? You can buy a CD-ROM of all the world's greatest guitar playing. Just put it in your computer,
computer's bad. That's where it's all.
And screw with it. Somebody's got to create it originally, but at some point, all we're doing is recreating what we've heard. I'm just a synthesis of a lot of players I've heard through my lifetime. And basically, if you're doing it on a computer, you're doing the same thing. You're resynthesizing a lot of things that you want to recreate, and you create your own mix, and that's creative in a sense too. So I don't know. It's kind of a mystery about where it's going to go, but I think there'll always be a need for somebody just primarily getting up there and playing, hopefully. Yeah.
When you find yourself where you really don't like music and you're uninspired and you don't want to play anymore, how do you bring yourself back?
Somebody asked me that yesterday, and I do one of 2 things. One is just to walk away from it, because I'm in a rut, which we've all been in that space where you just keep playing the same thing. Kids that are kind of my age when I started playing, and it's funny, because when I was a kid, my parents didn't want me to play. It was like, I wasn't allowed to play. They actually took my guitar away from me for a whole year, because I thought it was a bad influence. But now I see parents, they're encouraging their kids to play, and that's really cool, because I think music is, Not even for the sake of the music itself, but it's just so enriching in your life. It increases intelligence, it increases your appreciation of everything else around you. It helps you deal with everything else. It's like, just gives you a perspective and a satisfaction you don't get from anything else. It's very enriching. I think that it's really important that kids have, and if it's piano, tonette, anything, but it's really kind of a primal, basic thing that we all feel like we need to do, and sometimes life gets in the way. But I think we need to take time out to expose our kids to music and make sure that they're disciplined a little bit, and have that as part of their repertoire in their life. So that's good to see. A few youngsters here. It's awesome. All right. Yeah.
Can you play that In My Dream solo?
Sure, I can play that. How'd that Well, we weren't going to do that today, were we? Yeah, okay. We're going to do Tooth and Nail the right way, Mr. Scary, and what else? Kiss of Death. And then maybe a jam thing. So.
What happened to our singer? Nobody in this whole room knows that song? We'll play it again.
Yeah, but we're just tired of singing.
You can rap it if you want. No, we tried that once, didn't we? All right. All right. better than I did. And I wrote it. Hell. That's fast. Okay, one more. Scared. hot back here. Okay, cool. All right, here we go. I mean, how much more can I play? I mean, you know, how much more of this would anybody want to watch? You know, but I mean, we can keep going forever. But at one point, you got to pay the electric bill, right? Yeah, okay, so I guess that's cool for now, right? And if you guys want some autographs, talk for a second. I'm right here, and thanks for coming out. I appreciate it. Hopefully next time we'll be on the road.
Give it up for George one more time. Thank you very much, George. Thank you very much, DSC Music, for putting on this great event. Give it up for DSC Music. Best store in Elkhart, that's for sure. If you would like to meet with George, if you'd like to get an autograph, there's CDs, videos, and T-shirts for sale as well. If you look at